Hi, everyone. This is Margaret Manning with 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. My guest today is Mary Eileen Williams. Eileen is a career specialist and has a fantastic website designed for helping women over 60 to just explore and celebrate their 60s and beyond. Hi, Eileen. Great to have you here.
Hi, Margaret. Thank you so much for inviting me.
I'm so glad that you're here. I've been a follower of yours on Twitter and your website for some time. I love your articles, love your spirit.
Well, back at you, Margaret, for sure.
Well, the reason that I wanted you to come on and talk to me and to talk to our community is I think there's a thread that holds us together. There's something in your spirit, in the passion that you have for life that a lot of women in our community share. You know, I think there's a bohemian side to us. There's a quirky side. And I had a particular question. A lot of women in the community feel like they've missed something in their life. You know, that they've sacrificed a lot, maybe even through a few bumps. And you know, they're looking for, just to make the best of this next, 30, 40 years that we have. And I wanted to get your opinion on this idea of, doing something in our 60s that maybe we wanted to do all our lives, but for some reason didn't. What would we choose to do if we couldn't fail? What is that one thing? Tell me about what you think about that.
Well, I think actually we kind of have to start years ago, or it's helpful to start. Yeah. I'll put it that way. It's helpful to start years ago, and think of yourself as a young girl, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that age, where you had developed certain talents and skills, you just developed certain interests, but it was prior to those good old female hormones kicking in. So in other words, we hadn't yet gotten the nurturing hormones of estrogen and some of these other ones that, have shifted our focus to caring for others, at that time. So we were still pretty pure in that. And as we know now, menopause has gifted us to kind of send us back there. So think in terms of the skills that you did, the activities that you did, things that gave you energy, things that gave you oomph, things that lit up your life. And I like to say, maybe you are a tomboy, so maybe that's a clue that you really want to do something active at this time of your life. You like to be outdoors. You want to travel and experience adventure. Maybe that's good for you. Maybe as a child, you were a bookworm. Maybe you really like getting details right. Maybe you like doing research. Maybe you like just sitting, reading and exploring different things, or joining book clubs, something like that, where you can really nurture that side of yourself. Or, as I like to say, and this might have been true for me, maybe you were a bossy pants when you were a kid. And maybe you want to start your own business. Maybe you want to do something where you volunteer and serve others in a way where you organize things and you kind of oversee activities. All of these clues you can kind of find by going back to who you were prior to, again, those female hormones shifting your focus.
That is very interesting, Eileen. I had a conversation with, I think it was Nancy Colomer or Carrie Hannon, one of our wonderful career planning people. And one of them talked about this, like when you're reinventing yourself in your 60s, when you're thinking about a career change or an entrepreneurial opportunity, to go back to your childhood and remember. So I love that thread. And I'm trying for the life of me to think and I do know that I loved books. I loved reading. I loved learning. And I guess if I think about the thing I didn't do, that if I hadn't failed at it, if I tried it, would have been to have been a teacher, or to have gone through higher education and written lots of books and, just been a teacher. And maybe I'm in a way doing that.
Career counselor on this.
Yeah, I guess I'm working my excuse us, guys, while I just work up my personal life here. But what about you? What would be something that you would have wanted to do?
Well, I like to interact with people. I think communication is my very favorite thing.
Yes.
And so in my way, I am doing that. And now that you've invited me on your video series, which I appreciate, this is giving me another opportunity to practice that. I think it's just when we label something like a teacher, and then we create that picture in our mind.
Yes.
But that maybe we need to broaden those definitions.
Good point.
Another thing I think can be very, very helpful at this age is to think in terms of activities that you do, say skills that you're using, the talents. I mentioned this prior, but what gives you energy, but also when you lose time. Psychologists call this a flow process, or I think athletes say when you're in the zone. All of these words. Yeah, when you lose time, when you are energetic, when you feel good, when you get those sense of accomplishments, those are all clues to things that again, provide you with that meaning and what you would really want to do. And failure is we have to redefine that term as well.
I think that's a really good way of looking at it. And I think that I'd love to ask the community, people that are watching this video, to think themselves about what they would have done in their lives if there was no chance of failure. You could have done anything that your heart desired. And I think backing it up, to your 10, maybe even a little older than that, where you can start to remember before the hormones kicked in, that's an interesting point, that we have time now to do it. Like you said, we've been given the gift now of letting that menopause thing go. The hormones can rest. Yes. And, we can now be that person or go to those places or do those things. And I guess it takes a couple of qualities, though. What would you think are the qualities that, that you would be helpful in making those steps forward?
Well, one of the things I think that is very helpful, and I will speak for myself here, but again, I think I'm speaking for a lot of women, is that kind of, I don't care so much what other people think. Thank goodness. Because then, again, if we redefine how we perceive failure to be, then we can just do, and we don't necessarily care that other people are judging us. Who cares? At this point, we become far more self-assured, self-confident, and self-directed. Self-centered is a word I actually like, because if we take out that connotation that, you're being selfish, but if you're being self-centered, centered in yourself, centered in your values, your goals, that can really change the whole attitude about failure.
And I think there's another angle to this too, which is while we're on that journey, it doesn't mean you have to be alone, because I think having friends that can encourage you, and and making friends with people that share those interests, rather than being a victim to kind of circumstantial friendships. Like that you happen to work with someone, or you happen to know the mother of a friend of your children. Now you can choose your friends who also have that same passion.
And then you feed off each other's energy, just like you and I are doing right now.
Exactly. And I knew that when I met you, that would be the case, because I know we both have a passion for community. We believe that there's a side to women in their 60s that is beautiful, and it is, it's brave and it's bold, and that's, we shouldn't let that be hidden.
And again, our generation has been blessed in so many ways, but this is one of them, because we can bake cookies and be the grandma who does that, and that's a whole lot of fun, but that doesn't define us. We have all sorts of options open to us this time, if we choose to pursue them and follow them. And again, if you don't care so much what people think about you, and you're following your own guiding light and doing it in tandem with other people who are like-minded, there's really no stopping us at this point.
Absolutely nothing. Well, look, I'm really happy that we've taken this direction with our conversation, but I do want to remind people that you are a career specialist, and that you actually also talk a lot about on your website and articles, and there's some video there of what, if you want to go back to work, if entrepreneurship is your thing that you never did, that there are some really beautiful practical things that you can do to build, the path, the road to that kind of future.
Absolutely. And thank you, Margaret, for that. And I have a couple of quotes I'd want to share that I think are interesting about defining the word failure, because whether you want to open up a business, so you don't make a lot of money at the beginning. If you define that as failure, but I didn't bring in enough income or whatever, that, can color and stop you from pursuing things that, you might really have succeeded at. So these are a couple quotes. I'm going to read these off my computer here. These are from Thomas Edison, but I love these. First off, he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways it won't work." And he was referring to inventing the light bulb, which he ultimately did.
A big deal.
And then another one is, "Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up." And if we think in terms of that, I mean, that can be helpful. And my favorite, and I don't know who to attribute this to, and you may have heard this, but this is something I try to tell myself a lot, is the difference between the word try and the word triumph. Is just a little
No, I love that. And I think that what's so wonderful about your approach is it's action driven and it's driven by energy. I love you've mentioned that several times, that what we do should be the things that energize us, not the things that drain us. Done that maybe in our lives too much. Now it's time to take that energy and, to use it to move forward. Really great chatting with you, Eileen. Thank you again.
Thank you, Margaret. Thanks so much.
It's been a pleasure.